Hey, how's everyone?
$22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're $22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Queen.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well. Very well.
What's going on? Wait, oh, there he is. There's the man of the oak. Well, there he was. Yeah.
The
All
man
right,
with
ladies
the
and
plan.
gentlemen, we are live with Black Westchester. It's me and our co-host Tasha Young. We're waiting on AJ Woodson, the host, to come on in. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty, so please bear with us. There he is.
AJ.
They're working on it.
Still working on it.
So did you get some rest?
You know, today is the first day I felt normal. But my sleeping pattern has definitely been off. Dr. Bob is
Hi,
here
Dr. Bob.
Hey,
Unmute
how are you
yourself.
guys?
Unmute
Okay,
yourself. Okay, you got it. You got it. You got it. We can hear you.
me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Nice to see y'all tonight on this historic post-election celebration. So I'm looking forward to the conversation, and there's much to be discussed. So happy to join y'all on air.
Okay, I don't know if y'all can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we're having some technical difficulties, but we're going to try to thug our way through it. This is a special edition. Black Westchester presents the people before.
I don't know if y'all can hear me still, but
dedicated to Black
I just want to echo that, like Tasha, from these past couple of weeks,
Wait,
past couple of days have been.
Dr. Bob, can you hear AJ? AJ was speaking.
No, he can't hear.
Can y'all hear?
We can hear you, AJ. Tasha and I can hear you. I don't think Dr. Bob can.
Okay, test 1 2, test 1 2. Can you hear me? Test 1 2,
Yes.
test 1 2. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Microphone
Yeah.
check 1 2. Can you hear me?
You're good. You're good.
Okay, so now we're gonna try this all over again. So this is a special edition of presents the People Before Politics radio show, and all the technical difficulties and Wi-Fi issues and all that. But we're gonna try to plug our way through in a special edition dedicated to Black Girl Magic. I got the idea because I got an email from Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins that said she was available for interviews to talk about the historical election, the historical victory of to go for Black women. Who better to have on there but our first the first woman and the first African American woman to lead the New York State Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and I grabbed a couple of other people that have made their own her story. Towards the end of the show, we will have Mount Vernon Mayor Sean Patterson-Howard, and we may be visited from Verris Shako, who is still waiting for the results of her race, but in all intents and purposes, she made history as one of the first African American females on the Yonkers City Court. And then we're going to have visits throughout the show from Cheryl Brennan and several other people who might pop in and out throughout the show. So, with that said, I want to introduce, of course, the usual suspects, the lovely Lorraine Lopez and Dr. Bob Baskerville.
What?
Oh, that was your hello. But when I think about Black Girl Magic, when my phone blows up talking about some issues of dealing with Black women, it's always Tasha Young on the other end of that phone. So I figured if we're gonna celebrate Black Girl Magic, I had to have Tasha on the show. Guest co-host. She's been down with us since day one. Has guest co-hosts every now and then. So back on the screen.
Thank you. Guilty as charged. And thank you for listening every time I have something to say about Black Girl Magic.
Now, sometimes, now I'm gonna be honest, sometimes we go back and forth because I got to stand up for black men sometimes too. We got to go back and forth. It can't be all about black. Black men got to stay sometimes too. So we go back and forth, and we don't always see eye to eye. But she's relentless when it comes to advocating for women, especially black women. So I have to give you all props for that.
Thank you.
And one more thing.
Okay.
More thing.
So I guess this.
Wait, Queen Lorraine was getting ready to say something.
And one more thing. Let me say something about Tasha. She's fierce.
Yes,
she's fierce. Me and her had a conversation that, let me tell you, it went deep. It went deep, and it wasn't pretty at some times. But you know what? What I love about her is she's like me. She's open. She's willing. She's willing to listen, and she's willing to teach at the same time. Because we worked out something that was pretty deep, and I appreciate her.
I got to tell you, Lorraine, I remain teachable, and you teach me every day. And, you guys just got to give us, you guys got to give us this moment, because there is so much going on right now with this election. And one thing that I'm going to do is stay unified. We could argue, we could disagree, but ain't nobody leaving nobody. We got to figure this out, because we're the leaders. We are the leaders. So people are understanding and listening to a lot that we participate in and say, so we can set the pace for how to work this thing out amongst people that care about one another and not be divided.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
No, because like
I wrote to editor.
Go ahead, Jay.
So we have a delay, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm asking everybody, please bear with us, because and I don't feel, because I was watching MSNBC and CNN and see with all the equipment that they got, they was having the same issues over the last few days. So I don't feel too bad on my computer. So I really don't, but I do miss the studio. So I wrote 2 articles, because one was before the election, where I heard too many people saying that they wasn't going to vote because Kamala Harris prosecuted black men in jail, and Biden was behind the crime bill. And while both of those things are true, it inspired something that I saw Obama say when he was speaking. He said he felt that he left the country better than he inherited it. And he said he feels that Joe Biden will also leave it better. He said, was the country perfect when he left it? And will the country be perfect under Joe Biden? Absolutely not. Better. All the elections are not about making things perfect. They're about who will make it better. And I think that's what the choice was here, that the people overwhelmingly spoke and felt that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would leave the country better than they inherited it, than Donald Trump would, another 4 years of Donald Trump. And I think there was a mandate on that. But, we have to stop expecting one person to come in and save us. We have a job to do as well. And, it's okay. This historic win, but we have to do. We have a lot of work to do. Yes, Biden and Harris. Biden got more votes than any what they're not saying. Maybe Fox News will say it. Biden also got the most votes against him than any other presidential candidate. Donald Trump got the second number of highest votes, also beating the Obama record. So Biden was number 1, and Trump's votes this year were number 2, which means that Biden had the most numbers of people voting against him ever in the history of the presidency as well, showing that this presidency, this country is greatly divided. And I wanted to say this, and then I'm going to open it all up. We have to stop. We celebrate. Celebrate is great. But I think we celebrated a little too much under Obama, and we didn't realize we had work to do and ended up with 4 years of Trump. We need to stay on our job because the Democratic Party owes us from the time, and this is what I wrote in the last auditorium, from the timely endorsement of the House Majority Whip, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, the highest ranking African-American in Congress, South Carolina primary, and to the historical long line beginning in the early voting. African Americans are grateful for the Biden victory. The recognition of that and the selection of Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate is considered by many as a promise kept that he wasn't going to forget who brought him to the dance. And Kamala Harris is made the California senator the first Black, South Asian woman to run on a major political presidential ticket, igniting Black girl magic. Black women came out for the Biden-Harris ticket in record numbers. African Americans as a whole came out in record numbers. Biden has to have Georgia on his mind, as the Clyburn endorsement was the immobilization of Black voters by Stacey Abrams in Georgia, turning the traditional red state of Georgia blue with seats to take over the Senate after a January runoff. While Biden can get a lot if he delivers the Senate. We delivered the Senate to him in the election. The greatest chance in taking over the Senate is building on the momentum Abrams and others created in Georgia, and to get people out again. We're gonna have to all get people out again in January. Even if you do not live in Georgia, we need to call our friends and encourage them to show again in January. And this is the little part I'm going to end with this, and this is what I wanted to start to show off. Biden owes Clyburn. Biden owes Abrams. Biden owes Black girl magic, ignited by Harris as his running mate. Biden owes Black people. Will Biden honor the sacred obligation, or will he continue the tradition of America giving Black people a bad check, a check that has kept coming with insufficient funds, as Dr. Martin Luther King spoke in his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963. It's time for the Democrats to pay Black people what they owe. And a lot of that debt is to Black women. I wanted to start the show off with that, setting a tone. Tasha, would you like that as far as Black women is concerned, and the debt that Democrats owe to Black women? Because Black women have come out strong numbers for the Democratic Party, and then when candidates get in office, they never put Black women in positions of power. They never paid that debt that they owe to Black women. So would you like to speak on that? So you have passionate thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you for that question. Forgive me if I get a little, my emotions are all over the place recently. But yes, there have been a number of examples where Black women as a voting bloc, even though we are very diverse, you know, we come from all walks of life, from all incomes, from all education levels. But when we see certain policy measures that are a threat literally to our lives, we vote in unison. And I really do agree that I think the party needs to recognize the loyalty, but also the brilliance that is within the demographic of Black women. We are the most highly educated in the country, with advanced degrees. We hold positions of power, but a lot of us also have the experience of being marginalized and the primary caregiver. So what I would like to see is more emphasis on women that maybe are not master's degree holders or doctorate holders. And how are we looking at childcare? How are we looking at healthcare? I would love to see a Black woman in charge of the Department of Education, for instance, public education, the Department of Health, you know, a Surgeon General even, because we are experiencing the most negative outcomes in those policy areas. And when you bring someone that's, for this example, on the bottom, to talk about how healthcare is being implemented, to talk about what public education looks like, everybody benefits. So yeah, I would like to see more positions of power for Black women in areas that we are most affected. So that's really across the board, but definitely education. Hello, Secretary of Education. We've had a Black female AG at the federal level, at the state level, but some of these other areas I would like to see, even Homeland Security. I would love to see that. I would love to see more Black female generals, all kinds of areas where we have experienced disproportionate negative outcomes. And if you bring someone from that experience to the top, all the policies shift to better everybody.
Including HUD.
Oh my good, come on. So they had some woman that was under Ben Carson that really wasn't a good example of leadership. I forget the lady's name, but she is a Black woman. But I would like to see more positions of leadership for Black women. And we're qualified. We have the qualifications and we have the lived experience.
Dr. Bob, why don't you take it while we wait?
I have an article being written in the upcoming issue of Black Westchester. Bob, you'll probably appreciate this. You know, Dennis Richmond, he promotes HBCUs to high schools all over the place. And I posted something and I wanted to read it. It said, a Black woman from Spelman helped get out the vote by a city ramble a ticket for a Black woman from Howard over the top. Thank you, Black women. Thank you, HBCUs. And I had Dennis write the importance of the HBCUs and the people that came from HBCUs in this election. I also posted another post. If Stacey Abrams delivers Georgia, Biden need to make her the secretary of whatever the hell she wants, just for that Georgia, and mobilizing. And she got like 800,000 people re-registered that were from voter suppression and first-time voters. Like, it's incredible what she did. But speaking about the school, I know education is also something that Bob, and I wanted Bob to speak to that. You know, I know you didn't go to HBCU, but still education as well.
Well, as
Dr. Bob, can't hear me? Okay.
Well, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
We can hear you, Bob.
Yeah. So, in reflecting on the historic implications of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's victory and how it relates to a long chapter of in the struggle for racial justice here in the United States, one of the things that I'm reminded of is that the HBCU system is, in fact, the creation of the political alliance between Blacks and whites and other forces of progressivism here in the United States in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War and Reconstruction. And while I think it's important for us to certainly consider the selection of individuals to serve in office as a recognition of the contributions that particular groups have made, I think we need to bear in mind, as Tasha was suggesting, that we need to keep our eye focused above all else on policy and what kind of policies are going to allow us to ensure both at Black people events, for sure, Black women especially, but I think all of the groups that were so central to the coalition that we were able to cobble together in this most recent election. This is vital for us because, as Tasha suggested, we are more likely to win if we are able to find universal policies that appeal to everyone and that speak to our mutual needs. And this is what we need to keep first and foremost in our mind, especially because the battle is not over. We won the battle, but the war continues. And we are gearing up for a fight that is going to be refought on January 5th. And if we are not able to articulate a vision for America in which all groups can win, we are going to lose those Senate seats. And it will make our challenge much more difficult. And I want to caution us to think about this carefully, because as Minority Whip James Clyburn reminded us in recounting his history and the history of John Lewis in the most recent chapter of the Black freedom struggle, he noted that when within months after SNCC and the young people associated with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee had managed to inspire Americans in 1964 to pass the Voting Rights Act within less than a year's time, we saw a historical backlash against those victories because of, the fear that Black people were going to allow our cities to burn. And he specifically invoked that well-known phrase from the late 1960s, burn, baby, burn. And I think we, especially at this moment, we need to be very circumspect about the discussions we have, especially in public, about where we're going to go, because we know our opponents, our enemies, our adversaries are watching and looking for any misstep that they can exploit to persuade so many people who did not vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the vision of it unified racial democracy here in the United States, of how they're going to use those things. And so that's my response.
Tasha mentioned education as well, and we may have some Joe Biden's wife educator, so I'm sure education is going to be on the forefront of Biden's mind, whether he wants to do or not, because his wife is an educator and she is going to be pushing him to make certain moves. I want to be clear too, just because I saw a couple of comments real quick. I am not that Biden should have an all-Black female cabinet, or we should be just giving it to Black women just to be giving it to Black women. I want somebody qualified. I don't care what color they are, but it should be more. He did promise that he would have more. His cabinet would look more like, and now we have a woman in the room, and we need to have more of us in the rooms where decisions are made. And I think that's how you change some of the things that are wrong. By, putting some of us that can make a difference in the room where it happens. Lorraine Lopez, how did you feel? I know I'm talking about Black girl magic, but as a woman, period, how did you feel when Kamala Harris became, for the first time, there will be a woman in one of the two top seats in this country? What did you feel victory?
I thought about Rosa Parks. I thought about little Rudy. I thought about Magus. I thought about our own Andrea, who's been my friend for so many years. I thought about Kamala, and now I'm going to get emotional. She came from immigrant parents. Her father, a Black Jamaican, her mother, an Indian immigrant. And she's up there. She was up on that stage, and she brought these two little brown little girls up on stage with her. And I was overwhelmed. And my skin is not Black, but those are my sisters. And I felt it. And I felt the joy, and I felt the years of oppression. I felt all the racism that of course I've been through, because I'm discriminated against because I'm a Latina. I'm discriminated against because I'm a Latina with a big mouth. You know, I'm a Latina with this hair. There's a lot of reasons why I'm discriminated against because I'm a Latina that loves Black men, that has a Black son. But I was happy for all the Black women that I see out there every day fighting. I'm talking about Cynthia Turnquist Jones. You know, I see her all the time. I'm talking about Keisha Skipper. Keisha, who's been fighting the fight with COVID. You know, my mentor, Simma Brandon. Simma Brandon, who has been my dearest, closest friend for many years, and nobody even knows that. You know, I can call up Simma, I can call up Andrea at any time and tell them my deepest, darkest secrets, and I can trust them. And they've been fighting. They've been fighting for a long time, and they still fighting it to this day. You know, and I thought about Simone Sanders. Simone Sanders. You know what else I thought about? I thought about the Black man. Because what I noticed was they said big ups to the Black woman. And what they said about the Black man was Black man voted more for Hillary than they did for Biden this time around. Like it was, you know, and all of a sudden the Black man's vote was not as important. And we got to be wary of that. We got to be wary of that, because that's that racist bullshit. They'll find a way. They'll always find a way, and the media will find a way not to empower minorities in one way or another. That's what I got to say.
Can I say something about that? Because I'm getting emotional too. It's like, if you've ever been, like Lorraine and I are outspoken women, right? And we are unapologetic in who and what we are. And do you know how many times we have been told to shut up? Do you know how many times we've been told it's not your turn yet? Wait, get in the back. Don't act like that. Don't talk like that. Don't dress like that. And I was reading a post from Vice President-elect Harris, okay? And she said she's been told no so much that she's to the point where she eats no for breakfast.
You know how many times, Tasha, I've been arrested for speaking my mind? You know, so and for speaking my mind, I've been in the back of a police car and they blasted rock music in my ears as they're taking me to jail because I spoke my mind. I've been arrested and I've been so many times because I speak my mind. And they'll flip that. And they'll say, oh, Lorraine's a felon. You can't fuck with Lorraine because she's been to jail. She got been arrested so many times. They never send me flowers for getting arrested. Never. Not once.
So I just want to highlight that we don't talk about women's issues because we're anti-men. We don't talk about how difficult it is to be a woman of color in leadership because we don't know that it's difficult for men of color and Black men. Yeah. We talk about it because they keep trying to silence us. And what I really want to talk about is the fact that when we are able and when we push, because we're pushing to have our voices heard, it is to the betterment of everyone. Going back to like being on the bottom, right? A man is not going to bring up child care policy because men are not the primary caregivers, even though I know a lot of wonderful single fathers, wonderful men.
Or health, yeah.
Or health. Like when you talk about health disparities, it's women of color that are at the bottom.
Yeah.
So by us saying, listen, the women at the southern border are being sterilized forcibly. If you had a person in charge that connects with the fact that that is wrong, because that could happen to me, or that did happen to me, or that did happen to somebody I know, that policy will never go forth. That is what diversity brings. And the last thing I want to say is, me as this Black woman who advocates for Black women is never against Black men.
No, I'm not saying Black women are not uplifting the Black men. I'm saying the white media is not giving them the credit that they deserve.
And that's why it was important as the Black media to do this show and to celebrate Biden. But you know, us together as we're getting all these acclamations and proclamations and awards and all that. Vision. Right now, one of our women. Okay, we're gonna bring in one of the.
AJ, you go in and out, AJ.
I want to again include me. We have difficulties and Wi-Fi issues. Get through it, and we okay.
Let's not forget everybody is home, and the Wi-Fi system is over. Overworked. Go ahead, Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob.
I want to add a comment. Yeah, I think the concerns that Tasha and Laura articulated are real concerns that we must forthrightly acknowledge. That too often women of all races and ethnicities, especially African American women, have been overlooked in the struggles that we have waged. I can tell you, we are all insiders here. To one degree or the other, we have played a vital and central role in the wave of progressivism that has swept across the country, and especially in New York, the strongholds here in New York. I know because I have been there. I'm happy to see Madam Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins has signed in with us. And I'll close out my remarks by saying that I have seen, unfortunately, too many of my sisters overlooked after making indefatigable contributions to some recent elections and some of the progressive campaigns that have brought us to this moment. I cannot tell you the number of times that I have been deeply saddened in the private councils that important emerging political leaders in Westchester County have had about the nature of the race and how quickly they have glossed over the contribution of so many women in these recent elections and the women who have done the hard work. I would hate to single out any one particular leader, but this was especially, I was especially cognizant of this in the conclusion of former Mayor Richard Thomas's historic election, because with the exception of Roberta James, who did a wonderful job as grassroots mobilization and coordinator of former Mayor Thomas's campaign, there were other women as well who played a vital role, an indispensable role. And unfortunately, when it was all said and done, they were deeply, deeply disheartened by the unwillingness of the mayor and so many other members of the Democratic Party here in Westchester County to acknowledge the hard work that they have done. I will not mention them by name. Anyone who was involved knows some of the women that I have in mind here, but I could tell you whatever kind of victories I've been a part of, there have been women who have been at the table with me, out in the streets with me, and the work would have never, ever, whatever we achieved, it would have, would not have amounted to that, wouldn't have matched it without the contribution of those women, you know. And here I'll just close out, because I've been an organizer for 30 or 40 years. And I am impressed at the willingness of women not only to talk the talk, but to walk the walk. And too often, when I am walking and doing the hard work, because I believe in doing the hard work, AJ, I tell you, I work for Black Westchester. I work for real, along with Lorraine, Tasha, and others who do the real work. And too often, the men who want to proclaim the loudest about how they're overlooked are not out there doing the work, and so many sisters are. And we need to get this right, y'all. We need to get this right. If we're going to meet the challenge of the day, women must know that they can see in us equal partners who will work hand in hand, shoulder and shoulder, to make the sacrifices and also to reap the rewards.
Yes.
I guess on that note, that since it's our honor to have the highest female elected official in the state of New York with us, Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, I guess it's appropriate that we would allow you, Senator, to offer us your thoughts on the historic election that we lived through and its consequences, in particular for New York State and the challenges that still remain over the horizon. So welcome. On behalf of everyone, I say welcome.
Well, it's good to see everyone, AJ and Lorraine and Tasha. Tasha, I just saw you a couple hours ago. And Dr. Bob, I usually run into you in the supermercado, but
he tells us all the time.
Yeah, you know, I always run into him, and we always we fought for that key food though. So you know, so I'm happy to use it, but it's good to be here. Sorry that we're not in studio as usual, because it's always a lot of fun. But I am glad that Black Westchester and the work that you do continues remotely, and you know, despite whatever the circumstances, because as I've said, you know, the voice of Black Westchester is so important. And, you know, I've done a lot of interviews since this historic election, and I was happy to get an invitation to come here because, you know, you are a voice, a much, much needed voice in terms of Black people and our perspectives. And obviously, the work that we continue to do and the work that was done around this historic election is something that I am ecstatic about. I am ecstatic because as a state leader, to have somebody in the White House who's just targeting you. I mean, Trump was just targeting New York, whether it was on the tax level, if it was on just the amount of negativity that he was throwing at us all the time, in addition to which, not willing to help financially. And we're all going through COVID, and how difficult it is for everyone. We know how difficult it is for everyone, but without resources from the federal government, you can't even make it begin to make sense for people. And he was going to punish us for being blue. And then, we didn't vote for him in a majority. We know that. And I'm sure we would have been punished some more. So I am happy that is over. And of course, to have our Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who represents so much. And I heard what you were saying, Dr. Bob, about women, and every woman here, I know, and I'm not taking anything away from you guys, but I know these two women that I'm looking at, they are tirelessly working, trying to make things happen, trying to make things right. And we have for very long been in the background of a lot of things. I mean, that's just the way it has been for a very, 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 very long time. And I am glad that now women are not only doing, because we never stopped doing what we were doing, but now we're ready and willing to step up and take the credit when it's due, and take the positions that are due, and take the leadership of so many of these different roles. And it's obviously long overdue, but I think watching Sister Kamala, what she said in her speech yesterday, she said she's the first, she will not be the last. That was an affirmation, a declaration, and it will be done. She will not be the last. And we will also ultimately break that ultimate highest ceiling is presidency as well. So it's an exciting day for I think every one of us who have longed for relief from all the hatred and the regressive stuff, but also along with relief, we have the signal of progress for women of color, and for our future. So it's very exciting.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So Lorraine and I have continually been emotional on this show tonight, but can you share with us maybe what this election meant to you from a personal perspective?
That's exactly what I was going to ask her. Yeah.
From a personal perspective, I mean, I know that what I sounded like maybe didn't sound like it's personal, but this stuff is personal, because again, I'm in a position where I have to help people. I mean, that's my job. And to not be able to do that, and to know that you have somebody who is going to go out of their way to make you unable to do what you are supposed to do was really personal, in my opinion, because you're hurting, you're hurting my people. And why? For what reason? And then when you're singling out, we don't like immigrants, we don't like Black people, we don't like Muslims. So the whole thing was personal. And then, of course, with Kamala, we know what people gave her as, odds of becoming president, and how, people weren't sure whether she wasn't moving too fast, or this or that, all the things that happened, all the stuff that was thrown at her, that any woman in power gets thrown at them regardless, talking about her personal life, or they don't like a husband. I mean, we know this, but the power that she has to just keep her eye on the prize, to keep focused, to know that she's, yes, ambitious, know, however, that she has skills, and being ready to bring everything to the table to achieve the goals, not just for her, but for all of us, was really, really heartening and inspiring to see that, you know, she's even closer than when she started out on that stage many, many months ago as just a contender. And so again, you never know where life is going to bring you. You never know what's going to happen. But, you know, as I keep telling you, you know, shoot for the moon, you may wind up in the stars, you know, and watching her personally, having, you know, a tough journey, and many of us do, you know, it's just a reaffirmation of, you know, we can do it. We can do it. And you can't let people who would be standing in your way stand in your way. And the more we see each other doing it, the more empowered we are individually and collectively to continue to move forward. So for me personally, in so many ways, as I said, I felt really just you know, strangled by the hatred that was coming out of this administration in so many ways, and it was unbearable, really. So I personally, for so many reasons, are just thrilled, and you know, I can't wait to see what the healing nature of, you know, smart, progressive, diverse policy and people in these positions of power can do for our country. And obviously, you know, we're all going to have to work. We can't sit back. We know that. Right. So, you know, but at least, like I said, I'd rather work, you know, with people who want to work with me than, you know, be working just to make sure that they're not dragging me back into the, you know, the slave ships.
Right.
I don't know where this man was going.
It's true.
Yeah. There was no end to what he was doing. I don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I have to ponder on that, because you're right. You don't know.
It's funny. It's funny because like every day I would wake up saying, "Could it get any more evil? Could it get?" And it would. Yeah. And it was like, oh my God, no. And then now today I wake up and I'm like, can he be any more stupider? And he is. Oh yeah. And it's like, oh my God, that too.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's not gonna. Yeah, I ran into when we were at this rally, and so somebody was saying, "Oh, we have to see if we can get the Justice Democrats to be on our side or whatever." And I said, "Wait a minute, that's not my issue here. We gotta get this guy out of the White House. That's the issue.
That's the issue.
He got to go."
You know what I think? You know what I think, Senator? I think that he's not going to concede, but I think that Congress is going to bail on him like they're already doing. And I think they're going to talk to him, and they're going to talk to him gently, because, you know, he's very delicate right now. And they're going to tell him, you're going to have to leave because it's over for you, you know, and they're going to walk him out like a good little boy, and they're going to just get him out. I think Congress will get him out. That's what I think.
I don't know. I don't depend on Mitch McConnell to do anything productive or right. I don't. I've not seen any evidence of Mitch McConnell actually functioning in any way that I would have thought he would. So I can't believe in him. And the House by themselves are not alone, are not able to get him out. See, he needs to have, like you'll see a Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham. He's got enablers within the Senate as well as Mitch McConnell. And then he's got all these sycophants and his son-in-law and everybody else who's sitting there telling him to fight. So what has to happen is that enough of them have to pull away. Chris Christie started saying,
Giuliani.
Well, Giuliani's his guy. Giuliani's not saying it. Giuliani's his guy. He's a ride or die guy. He's going to be with Trump. But Chris Christie has said something. Mitt Romney, but Mitt Romney is always willing on some levels to speak out. But you don't have enough critical mass of sitting senators. And that is the problem. They are all scared of him. They're scared of what he'll do. And you have to realize that his base is their base. You see, I mean, there's still 70 million people who voted for this guy. And they're the base of these senators. So they're not going to be as vocal and outspoken. They'll probably have to, I mean, he's going to exhaust his legal claim.
What
happened?
Okay, so right now at the Senate level, we've got 4 races that are on the line. Am I correct?
Are you talking about the U.S. Senate?
Yeah.
The U.S. Senate.
Yeah, the U.S. in Georgia with Purdue and Ossoff, right? That's going to go on a runoff.
And Warnock, and Reverend Warnock is the other one. So there's 2. If they get the 2 Senate seats in Georgia, then Chuck Schumer will become the majority leader.
Okay.
So so everybody needs to pay attention to Georgia. I talked to Senator Schumer today. He called me and he said, let everybody know, send money to the candidates. And obviously, if you know anybody in Georgia or whatever, because they want to remobilize this vote. And I think the special election is going to be, the runoff is going to be January 5th. So we don't have a lot of time. It'll be right after the holidays. So we got to really stay focused on Georgia. But if we get those 2, which are doable, I didn't think that the Reverend Warnock seat was as doable as the Ossoff seat, but apparently they both are doable if we get our vote out.
If we get that, we can change the course, the direction we've been going in, because as I recall, Mitch McConnell's been majority leader for about 6 years now. Yeah, because he had half of Obama's last term, right?
Yes. It's been too long, though. It's
been a nightmare.
Remember, it wasn't half of Obama's. I mean, remember when Obama was elected, he was because remember his objective was to make sure that Obama was the
first term. That's right.
Yeah, so he's been there quite a while.
He's been awful.
Quite a while, and as I said, he's got this bad behavior down to a science. So he ain't stopping now. So
right.
Although they don't need Trump, I mean, he's packed the Supreme Court with all these people who will do who knows what. And they put him in, hundreds of thousands of, I understand, of federal judges. So, I mean, they've been able to accomplish a lot of what they wanted to accomplish. They gerrymandered so badly. I mean, those are the lines that we're running on now with all this after Obama's election, all the state houses that they decided to focus on, that they flipped and drew the lines for Congress and so on and so forth, which is why, we're still running on very bad lines. And so, I mean, they've managed to do a lot behind the scenes. I think for us, we have finally, hopefully as Democrats, have also, when we say we woke, we have at least awakened enough to know that it's not just the elected, it's not just the top lines. I mean, it's all these other lines. And, whether it's the policy, whether it's the local elections, whether it's the school board, that's what they focus on, every single lever of power. And we somehow, I think, just got involved in maybe just the top line races and didn't understand how all of these things work together.
Leader, can I ask a quick question? AJ's having trouble. That's why we're kind of playing host here. But can I just ask a quick question about the districting? Because that is something you mentioned earlier at the rally, that for the first time, New York State Democrats will have the opportunity for districting. Can you teach us about that redistricting?
Right. So what happens every 10 years, we do the census. And we even know what happened with the census. I mean, we didn't even want that. I mean, it's just incredible. Does not wants everyone to be underrepresented where he wants to be. But anyway, so we take the count, and then based on the count, we then determine how much representation is required on a congressional level, on a state level, so, and even on local levels. So with the every 10 years this happens, and it happens at the state level. So the assembly and the Senate in every state draws the new lines for the state legislature as well as for Congress.
Wow.
So the assembly has been in the majority for quite a while, but the Senates have been in the majority. The Senate has been in the hands of Republicans every time there was redistricting. So, for example, when I first ran, I ran against a Republican, and the map that I ran on that the Republican had was just a rectangle. When the Democrats were in charge, we got the majority in 2008. We began in 2009. We lost it in 2010. So we got the majority when Obama was first elected. We lost in the first midterm, and that was right after the census back in 2010. And the Republicans drew the line in 2011. So now my district, which used to be a rectangle, is now the smiling profile of an old man with a scraggly beard.
Oh, crap.
Number 35. If you look it up, it's crazy. It's crazy. I share Westchester.
It looks like the former senator. No, let me stop.
No, come on now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't. You're always going to be Lorraine. That's what,
you know, it was too easy. Come on.
I know it was. but this is what. So now they drew the line, because when Susie Oppenheimer was the senator, she retired, and they had the opportunity to draw the line. Not only did they redraw the lines and gerrymander them like that, but they added a Senate seat. So yes, so that when I ran, there were 62 senators. After 2010, they added another one, because they figured out if they added another one and just figure around the numbers about who represents who, they would have a better chance of staying in power. And that's what Republicans have done. So now Senator Mayer and I both represent New Rochelle. Yeah. We both represent White Plains. We both represent Yonkers. We both have a half of 3 cities.
Wow.
So this time, this is again the first time that Senate Democrats have been able to hold on to a Senate majority. We've only had it 3 times, and this is the first time we've ever been able to hold it for more than 2 years. So I am, yes.
What?
Yes. This is the first time. So
kudos.
Thank you. Yay.
Yay.
And we have I mean, it's sad, right? But you got to celebrate it's the first time that we've been able to hold on to it since 1936. And it'll be the first time, it's crazy, that we were able, it's crazy.
That's almost 100 years.
It's like since FDR.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's the first time we'll actually be able to draw lines that, again, will be representative of the district in a real way, and not just chopping off. But they said they thought when Susie left, they thought they could get that her district if they made it more Republican. So they started cramming all the Democrats from all these different cities into my district, and they tried to make that other more Republican. And George Latimer ran for that seat, and he won it. And now Shelley has the seat. And when we get a chance to do the redistricting, we're going to draw lines that are going to be coherent and sensible and sane. And
do you know, Senator, if you're going to add a district or remove one?
Well, no, I don't. First of all, we've got to get the census count.
Yeah.
But and it's going to be hard enough to do anything. There's 63 districts now. We're going to see what the count is. And according to I know Mayor Spano, he's hoping that Yonkers moves up to be the 3rd largest city, because right now it's the 4th largest city. And he insists that we have more population in Yonkers, for example, than Syracuse. I don't know. But again, it depends on what ultimately the count is. And then it's always hard to go back, because then you're automatically taking a district away from somebody. So, you know, we just have to figure it out. But it's if we've lost population, it's hard. That's why the census is so important.
I know there's another question, but I just have to stick a pin in the fact that this is the first time since 1936 that the Senate has maintained the Democratic majority.
That's right.
And it is under the first ever female leader who just happens to be a Black woman.
That's
Senate
right.
Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. That is Black girl magic right there.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I tell you, it was rough. I can't understand why when Democrats get in charge, it's the hardest, because when were in charge in 2009, that's when the big recession happened. Right. And the economy tanked, and then all kinds of terrible things happened. And now we get the majority again, and here we have COVID. And the economy tanking. I'm like, what? So it's been, and then we did a lot of important things, as you know, and part of the reason why we were in such jeopardy in many places was because we did the hard things. We did bail reform, and we did police reforms. We did the strongest police reforms during the time of the George Floyd murder, and you know, after that in June, we did the strongest police reforms in the country, and for that, people were targeting our. I mean, they were running on bail day and night, letting criminals out, and we're doing all these things. And I mean, they didn't want us to do the driver's licenses for the undocumented.
Yeah,
we codified Roe v. Wade, and people were. I mean, we did a lot of things. Child Victims Act, the gun laws, environmental stuff. We did a lot of things. And every time we did something, I said, okay, they're going to come after us for this. And then they're going to, but ultimately, you know,
and they did.
And they did.
And they did.
Somebody always did, yeah.
And still we prevailed. And I feel extremely good about that. But as I said, we're in a difficult time now, and people have to take a stand. We just can't be bystanders. So I can't correct everything. And that's the other thing. People, they get what they have been trying to get for decades, and then it happens. And then they go on, okay, so give me the next thing. Give me the next thing. And it's just not like that. Everything is not going to be resolved that's gone wrong in 2 years or in 4 years. And so, and I know that will be the same, getting back to the presidentials, that will happen with Kamala and Joe, that they will come and we'll all be inspired and we'll all have hope. And then we get impatient sometime. And I'm not saying that we have to be patient about everything, but again, you know, there's a lot of repair that has to be done in this country, and a lot of damage that this guy has done nationally, internationally, locally, statewide. He's done a lot of damage, and they're going to have to.
And it takes time. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bob, for indulging us, ladies. But I know Dr. Bob has a question.
I mean, number one, it's just a pleasure to be a part of the conversation. Senator, I wanted to ask you, as we think about what the near-term holds and the impact of the upcoming senatorial runoffs in Georgia, can you tell us? I know that the governor, yourself, in the entire New York State government has tabled a lot of important decisions that have to be made in terms of how best to respond to the interlinked crises that we're experiencing because of the COVID epidemic. And I wanted to know if you could tell us what is the likely impact on New York State budget and, you know, our response if Democrats are not able to take those seats in runoff, and if there is a Republican majority that is going to, in many respects, obstruct the effort of the incoming Biden administration. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons why we have not on a state level done anything, we've tried to answer the COVID crisis as it evolved, but the budget that we passed in April, we passed the budget on April 2nd, has no basis in reality today because it assumed revenue, it assumed sales taxes, income taxes, you name it. There were assumptions that we know based on our situation have not come to fruition. So that's number one. And we have been hoping that just like there was a stimulus for us in March, and I credit Senator Schumer for really working hard to make sure that state and local governments were involved, and certainly the Senator Gillibrand, and on the House level, they, after this first stimulus package, they led the fight for $3 trillion. Again, much of it coming to state and locals, and that has never gotten anywhere. So we know that we are already short for what we said this year was going to look like. Then in January, technically, we begin working on what our next budget looks like. So now you can understand the problem, because I got a hole based on what I did last April. And come January, I'm going to have to start figuring out what I'm going to do. So it's not pretty without money. So we're hoping that with the advent of the Biden administration and the fact that he does have some relationship with some of the Senate, and maybe they do, maybe something good will happen. Other than that, everything is on the table. Everything has to be on the table in terms of revenue, in terms of, and again, we're talking about multimillionaires, billionaires with these kinds of revenues, and however we could do it, but everything has to be on the table. And even then, it will not be, frankly, enough, because we're looking at upwards of about $30 billion in revenue that we've got to find. It's big.
Wow.
Yeah.
A follow-up, if I might.
And the last question, I bet.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Okay. I guess that's on me. So earlier you mentioned that the Democratic Party hasn't enjoyed this level of influence over New York State since 1936, I believe. And it reminded me that this was the year when FDR was reelected, and that FDR actually, in many respects, did a trial run for progressive policies that he instituted in the New Deal during his governorship here in New York State. And if the federal government does not respond in a way that's going to allow New York State to begin to work its way out of this crisis, I'm curious to know whether our present governor, Andrew Cuomo, is going to consider embracing more progressive policies, including getting behind the call of your colleague, Senator Myers, for a more progressive tax policy here in New York State that increases taxes on our businesses.
Are you talking about Shelley Mayer? Well, she has a I think it's an interim sort of tax. It's not a permanent on, yes. Well, as I said, that's what I said. I said that we were going to look, we'd have to look at all of those things. I mean, we have to, there's no question about it, because otherwise I don't know where the revenue would come from. But even that, as I'm saying, even if you look at the millionaires and the billionaires and multimillionaires and so on, even that would not, it's not going to put us ahead of anything. It's just going to try and fill up some holes. And so that's the difficult thing, without real infusion of cash. And the reason why it's important that the federal government provide that is because, unlike local governments, unlike state governments, the federal government actually does not have to balance its budget, as you know, from the trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. We have to balance our budget. We can't just say anything. I mean, it has to be certified and approved, and our Constitution doesn't allow it. And they also, on the federal government, can print money. We can't do that. So they really can help if they wanted to. And I think the Biden administration will at least be allies as opposed to adversaries, because the Trump administration, quite frankly, as it relates to New York, was an adversary. And however they could make us suffer, they were planning to do that. And again, it's not me, it's all of us. And it's not sustainable. So yeah, it's all on the table, but it's not a long-term solution. We really do need a big infusion from our federal partner. Okay, yeah. Oh no. Yes.
Okay. All right, Senator.
Another thing I gotta get on. Go ahead.
Senator, sometimes, often the case, people ask us questions when we are on live. We've got a couple of questions, Luis Cherico, Juan Carlo Batista. Everyone is discussing. Well, let me just say, New Jersey doesn't have a care in the world right now because they legalized marijuana yesterday, right?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so good. This is the question. So the question is, let me ask one. I'll ask John Carlos. Is marijuana legalization something we will see in the next legislative session? New Jersey just voted to legalize it for recreational use in a referendum. Can you explain and can you answer?
Yes. What you said was right. They did. So the problem that we've all had in many, I'm sure New Jersey has the same way that we've had it, is the question around legalization is, we understand where we are. So I always say that it's more likely of when as opposed to if. But the conversation has always been about the revenue. And it's always been about inclusion in the business model. And it's always been about making sure that people are educated around drug use as well. But it is what happens to the revenue, how to disparately impact the communities from the enforcement of the marijuana laws all these years. How is there some benefit that comes back to those communities of color for the most part? And how do we make sure that the revenue comes back to some of that revenue comes back, and how do we make sure that they're part of the industry where all this money's going to be made? And that has always been one of the biggest discussions. The governor, he wants all the revenue to come into the main pot, and then he'll figure out how to distribute it. And that's never been the right answer as far as we've been concerned. New Jersey had a similar conversation and they couldn't figure it out. So then they said, okay, well, let's put it to referendum, see what people really want this or not. And so now people really want it. And now they still have to come back and figure it out.
Wow.
But I will also say about the revenue, because there's a lot of different levels here. The federal government still hasn't legalized marijuana. So that there's still a lot of things that we as a state will be able to do as a state but not with federal partnership, even in terms of money going into federal bank kind of thing, because it's not legal on the federal level yet. And because it's going to be a statewide endeavor, we're going to have to figure out how to grow it, so it's going to take a while before we actually see any revenue. Now, what I hear New Jersey is doing is that the people who have, because we have medicinal marijuana now, and I'm told that the people in New Jersey who are selling medicinal marijuana are going to be able to just expand into the field and be able to just do the recreation. If we do that here, I can guarantee there will be no people of color in that industry, because right now the medicinal marijuana, there is not one color, period. So we want to figure out that in a better way. And so that's part of it. But again, the revenue would not be available next year, or it's not going to be available soon enough to get us out of the hole that we're in. But it is something that we're working on. I see the new judge.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, AJ's back.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you, Senator. It's a joy to have you on the show. Y'all have no idea the technical difficulties that I'm having, and I'm doing my best to keep the show going, even if I'm not on the camera. I just want to make sure that that we have this great show. And this show was inspired by you, Senator. I was trying to figure out what to do, and then I got the email that said that the Senate Majority Leader is available for interviews about Kamala Harris. And I'm like, yo, why don't we have an actual show for Black Girl Magic and celebrate our sisters? And, as the first woman and first African-American woman to run the Senate, the New York State Senate, it was perfect just to have you set it off. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. I have many questions for you, but I didn't get to have my questions. But we got a panel here. And I want to, I don't know how much longer you can stay. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the show.
I'm going to jump off. I stayed on half an hour longer than I was. So I got to go on and get ready for another one. But
Well, I wanted to thank you for coming on and setting off our show. And I know you have to go to another show afterwards. Yes, and I'll see you on that show as well. And I want to introduce our next guest, Verris Shako.
Verris, congratulations, my judge. Yay! Another history maker. So I will bow to you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm going to get off. So it's all about your Black Girl Magic now. Thank you.
Senator, we said a lot of beautiful things about you prior to you coming on. Go back and watch the tape.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always good to see you, Lorraine, and Tasha, Dr. Bob, AJ, and of course my new judge. So love you all.
Love you, Senate Majority Leader.
See you around. Tell Tim I love her.
I want to be fair to our next guest. We're still waiting for the vote to come in for to be finalized. So even though we're going to celebrate that she is one of the first African American female judge, she can't speak much to that until there's an actual official decision. So I just wanted to put that out there. We're celebrating for you. It's a done deal, but we can't ask her questions about that. But what I wanted her to speak on is what the Kamala Harris victory meant to her.
Sure. Well, thank you, Black Westchester, for having me. AJ, Dr. Bob, it's good to see you in the studio on a cold day at the cold site. Tasha, Lorraine, thank you for having me here. It is my pleasure and my honor. I am so, excited, by what happened last night, that we have our first female vice president. I'm not just excited. My daughter, who is 6, You know, she called me. She was running around the house. She said, I don't know what to do with myself. You know, and she's 6 years old and she gets it. You know, I think that means so much. She's trying to take letters from Kamala's name and match it with letters in her name. You know, and I think that's so important. My daughter has been in schools for pre-K, preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and now second grade, 5 years. And she's only seen an assistant who looked like her, you know? And for her to see a female vice president that looks like her just tells her that it's attainable, it's reachable. You know, there's dreaming about something and then seeing someone, you know, who could have walked in your footsteps, achieve that goal. And it lets them know, it lets them see that it's possible, you know, and that really makes me proud. It makes me so hopeful for our future. I'm someone who has benefited greatly from the women, you know, here in Westchester who have supported me. I have leaned on anyone who allowed me to lean on, you know, so I definitely reach out to people and I get advice, and the women have been really supportive here in my community. The men have been supportive also. The women will sit you down. You know, I remember Shawyn Patterson saying, "Where's your notebook?" You know, you know, so went into details and really, you know, try to help you and guide you as best as you can. For someone like me, who was a first-time candidate, really not knowing what I was doing, but really wanting to give it my best shot, you know, and as a woman who had young children, my kids were 3 and 5 when I started this, and they're going to be 5 and 7, you know, and have people say, you know, stay home with your family, you know, or go back to being a Girl Scout mom, or why don't you just settle for being a lawyer, or it'll take 3 or 4 runs to get there.
Await your turn.
I'm planning to run, and they're saying to me, it might. Wait, yes, I mean, but obviously, like, none of that. I was like, I'm doing this. You are not going to be the one to determine my life, my destiny. This is for me to decide, you know. And so for me to be able to push forward, push past the negativity, push past the people who said no or weren't even willing to have a conversation, you know, weren't willing to give you the time of day, and said, you know what, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to talk to someone else. I'll circle back to you later on. And maybe you'll talk to me. Maybe you won't, you know, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to fail because of you. I'm going to fail because I didn't do it. So I think it's great to have strong role models, real women, you know, whether we have families, whether we don't, whether we look like, you know, me or whether they don't, as long as they're there and they're setting an example so that young girls can see. And, you know, the boys need strong female role models too.
Absolutely.
You know, they need to know that a woman is their equal and respect it, because she's going to work with him, you know, and he's going to probably marry her. You know, he may marry her. We need him to have that same amount of respect, you know, and also aim for those things, especially in our society where we don't have those role models for our kids, you know, and I want them to see, and now they can come to me. They come to me and they're saying, I want to be president, or, you know, can you be president? You know, so they're having all these conversations about things that really we didn't have conversations about. If this is happening for the first time, I think it's really, really amazing.
I think we're starting to see the people speak. In the 2018 midterm election, we saw a lot of that. I don't know what the crackling noise is, and I apologize. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you with the crackling.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't know where the crackling. I'm not sure what the crackling noise is, and I apologize. But
Could it be the wire in the headphone?
I
Maybe.
took it off. I just took it off,
Oh, okay.
so it's not that. In the 2018 midterm election, we saw election people. A lot of women, a lot of first first Muslim, first Native American, first LGBT. So the people are speaking, and they do not just want more of the same. And we're starting to get representation on all levels, which is a beautiful thing. We have a long way to go, but it's good to see it happen starting. I think last night the victory is another step in the right direction for that, because we could be looking at real talk. Biden's like the oldest president I think so far that we elected, so there's a chance that he'll run in a second term. So we may be looking at the setup for like a Kamala Harris 2024 maybe. You know what I'm saying? So this is the setup for that possibility. Any questions? Anybody else? Lorraine? Anybody else want to say anything?
We have so many here.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I was saying is that I think it's a beautiful thing, especially since women make up such, more than 50% of the population. And so we give these girls dreams and hopes, and now we're not just talking about it, they can see it. I think so many little girls I've met along the Girl Scout
That's me. Sorry. That's me. Sorry.
Go ahead, Verris. Go ahead. Hi.
That was it. That was it.
I would like to congratulate you, Your Honor to be.
You hear it?
I want to congratulate. I still hear it. I want to congratulate you, Your Honor to be. And, before you came on, we were quoting Vice President-elect Harris in saying that she's been told to wait her turn also. She's been told she's not ready also. And she's been told no so much that now she eats no for breakfast. So I just want to say, be encouraged, and all those, just eat that no for breakfast and keep going.
I do. In any, area of life, whether it's something like this or a doctor, or any kind of profession, I have a high bar, I give what I expect, and when I go to places, I expect a certain level of quality of service. And I think, we have one life to live, and you want to live it to the fullest, do what's meaningful to you. And I would definitely hate, in the last few years of my life, to have a regret that I didn't pursue something because someone told me not to. So I think it's important. And I also ran with the understanding that I was running as a role model, as someone who was doing something for the first time. And I wanted to do it in a way that I would be proud of, that my family could be proud of, that my daughter could look up to me, that the fellow parents that I knew and friends in the, in the community could also be proud of, because I knew I was setting a trend, and it also made me work harder, because there was a lot that I was putting aside in order to do this. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave it my best shot, and that meant sacrificing a lot, but it also meant representing and carrying myself in a certain way. And I think luckily for me, I learned a lot of that practicing in court. And, in court, you, especially in criminal court, in family court, you start behind the ball, you start with everything being thrown at you, from the beginning. And it's your job to find your way through that and get to where you need to, not just accepting what, is being told to you. And so that allowed me to say, nope, I'm not taking it, not having it. you know, I'm going forward and doing what I need to do and doing it on my terms also.
Okay, so I'm not sure what the technical difficulties is. Everybody's not talking. Mute your mic. Maybe that will stop some of the background noises. Lorraine, Tasha, Bob, any questions or comment for Judge Shako?
Yeah. Your Honor, you know, I know that Yonkers is a big city with a small town feel. I know a lot of the obstacles that were thrown in your way when you decided that you was gonna run. I know that there were forces that did not want you to achieve success. But I had a conversation with you. And I said, the day after the primary, we spoke on the phone. And I told you, I wanted it, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. And I'm going to tell her, you see the judge? You see, I want my granddaughter to look up to you. Because you can't speak on certain things. But I can speak about what I saw, what other people saw, what other women saw, what other people in the community saw. They saw a Black woman determined to make it. And you went out there and you fought every day. You knocked on doors. You did what you had to do. You did not wait for anybody to catch up to you. You did what you had to do. And any obstacle that came your way, you fought right through it. And you know what else you did? You did it with your family. You did it with your sisters. And you showed people out there that you know what, family is important too. Okay? You did videos with your children. You not only did you say you didn't say I'm one woman army. You said I come with a family. You know, and you taught us a lot about the value of unity with family, that the Black family, the minority family, people of color, we don't stand, not only do we not stand alone, but when we empower our children and we empower our sisters too. And that's something I got out of you in your campaign. And I want to congratulate you on that. And like I said, my granddaughter is going to meet you one day.
Thank you, Lorraine. I appreciate it. And that means a lot because I know you also went through what you had to get to where you needed to get to. So that means a lot. It has been like a tough few years. I'm used to fighting other people's cases. And so I felt like this was my case, you know, to fight this time. And for me, it was more than running for Yonkers City Court. It was being an example and opening this door, you know, and just making sure that there's other people on the bench who can represent the community, who can look
Yes.
who come before the court and just treat them fairly and equally. Don't prejudge as they stand, you know, before the bench. And so for me, that it and to have people who went through it, who could give me guidance and who could give me support and encouraging words. And sometimes I didn't know, like I was just hoping, you know. Like you said, we spoke way before the primary, and you told me, you said it would be, you said there would be bumps, but I believe you would be victorious. And I remember that, and that all the little bits of this and here, I remember, and I took it to heart, and I hoped and worked with the hope and just tried to build my network and build my strength. I feel honored because this is, you know, a court that I really practiced in for 15 years. And so I knew it meant a lot to our community to see someone striving for this and to be able to go forward and push myself forward and then to be in this bigger race, you know, for president and to see Kamala doing it also and how proud we were, you know, when she, you know, Biden decided to go with her for vice president. That was a huge moment for me, for everyone else, you know. So I feel really fortunate, you know, within our community, with the young girls I'm involved with the young people I'm becoming to be involved with. Like, I've had the opportunity to meet, you know, some of the young men from the MBK program, also some of the young women from the Pearls program at the YWCA, and to see them and how open-minded they are and willing to learn and wanting to do so much with their lives. To have a role model like Kamala Harris means so much. You know, because now they can see it's achievable. If she can get there, I can get there too, and that means the world. That's it. That's what we can rest on, knowing that our kids can dream, because it starts with a dream. If they can dream, then they can work to achieve it.
I wanted to also take the opportunity to echo the sentiments of my co-hosts and extending congratulations to you, Judge-elect Shako. The last time we saw one another was on the opening day of early elections here in Westchester County, when you were out there urging people to cast votes that would sway the direction of history. And I'm so happy that you're part of a new generation of trailblazing women who are setting the direction for us. And it's also a pleasure for me to welcome to the show Mayor Shawyn Patterson-Howard, who recently set history in the city of Mount Vernon for becoming the first elected female mayor of the city of Mount Vernon, first elected Black female mayor of the city of Mount Vernon. And like so many of our audience members, I'm sure she's as delighted as we all are that we have a moment of respite from the weight of history that has really, to be quite honestly, hung around our necks for the past 4 years. And so I welcome you to the show, Mayor Patterson-Howard. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, get your insights, and maybe to offer us up some words of encouragement about where we need to be going in the days ahead.
Hi, Mayor. Welcome.
Unmute yourself, Mayor.
We can't hear you.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I muted myself because there was a crackling. I wanted to make sure that wasn't me. So I'm just really excited to be here. Definitely shout out to our Judge-elect Shako. Hello, my sister Tasha, Lorraine, Dr. Bob. Good to be in this space with you. We are really excited right now to see the changing of the guards. We still have 2.5 months that we have to wait until January 20th, but right now, the energy, you definitely feel a shift in the energy to watch President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris last night on television. The conversation, their speech, the tone, the tenor, the hope, the unity, the respect. It made you proud again. It made you proud. They were adults. They were articulate. And so, you know, I'm sitting here tonight with my Delta Sigma Theta sweater on because as a Delta, women's suffrage was our first act of public service. So Deltas were founded understanding the importance of our vote, understanding that it is our voice. And as I was telling people throughout last week, you know, our voice is our vote. And right now we're screaming. We're screaming because we've been tired. We've been tired of shenanigans, the lies, the games, the divisiveness, the way our country has been torn apart. And we really have to focus on healing and moving it forward. I also am here today as a proud alumni of Howard University, where our Vice President-elect Kamala Harris attended. She left right before I came. We missed each other by a few months. But, you know, the role of HBCUs in leadership across this country cannot be understated. The role of women and women of color in this country cannot be understated. We cannot minimize who we are as Black and brown women, and our role in it. It says the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And when we're talking about rules the world, we're not talking about with an iron fist, but women, we are focused, we're strong, but we're also natural nurturers. We look to build, we look to strengthen. We find creative ways to work with people who historically aren't interested in working with us. And so I'm just happy to see Biden is coming into office and Harris. When you step back for a minute and you look at my girl Stacey Abrams out of Atlanta, she did the daggone thing. She did it. She went out and registered 800,000 voters. After the election was stolen from her in Georgia, she could have sat on the sidelines and she could have been angry. She could have been bitter. She could have been defeated. But that's not what we do. They say, you know, when a woman's fed up, there's nothing that you could do about it. And that's the truth. When a woman's fed up, there's nothing that you can do about it, because she's going to get to work. She's going to get to work. And that is exactly what she did. She got to work. And I know she is already working on January 5th. If you've paid attention, you'll see that there are articles out there. There are commercials out there. So she's already focused on the next. See, we don't have the luxury of sitting around and just celebrating. You know, it's good to dance in the streets, but we have to make sure that we flip these 2 seats in the Senate in Georgia. And so that is what Ms. Abrams is out doing. She's already released the link, and we should all, even if we don't live in Georgia, we have friends and family who live in Georgia, we need to share that link on our page and let people know that this is the link for them to request their absentee or their mail-in ballots so that they can get going. Because I promise you, with everything in me, the other side is organizing right now. And I hate to even use that term, the other side, because there should not be a side. And that, you know, that level of divisiveness in our national politics has infected and penetrated so deeply, even into our state and our local politics. And we have to find a way to get out of that. We have to find a way to get out of that. We have to find a way to build each other up instead of tearing one another down. And just because you're not the one who sits in the helm does not mean that you cannot be a part of the positive change. But what I find is that people, when they are not the head person, when they're not the mayor, the governor, the county executive, the president, the senator, the judge, that it's very hard for people to come together and to support positive movement going forward. There's such a tendency to undercut and make people believe that you are the only one who could bring positive change. And that's one of the reasons why our communities stay so far behind, because we can talk about the white people, we can talk about the Republicans, we can talk about Bloods and Crips, but until Black and brown leaders stop trying to kill and destroy Black and brown leaders, then we're where we're at. My girl, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, always says, you can't conquer what you can't divide. But, you know, just like in the Bible, it only takes 30 coins of silver to buy people out. It only takes, you know, a promise of a position to get somebody to turn around and cut someone's throat. And we have to get away from this. It's been too busy playing checkers and tic-tac-toe while other people are playing chess. And we need to get to the point where we're really focused on doing what we need to do for the entire community, not just for your cohort of friends, not for your relatives and your family members, and not just anyone who supported you. And if I can say this, you know, without being funny and without being strange, Tasha worked on Andre's campaign. Tasha supported Andre straight through and through. And Tasha and I have sat down and we've had conversations, and it's not to talk about Andre, it's to talk about what do we need to do to move our communities forward. I'm not sitting back looking at her side-eyed because she didn't support me. That's not what we do. And we spend too much energy and time on that, and we lose out on great opportunities, and we have to grow up. Like I said, I'm going to be the thermostat and never the thermometer. So people can come sideways, they can move however they want to, but I'm going to still maintain who I am, move who I am, and make sure that whatever I'm doing and the decisions that I'm making is going to be the best for the community and not just for me and mine.
That's a testimony right there. That is a
Before you
testimony
go,
right there. That's all
I
I'm
know
gonna
Bob
say.
has a
Thank
question for
you.
you.
Who?
Dealing with the GA status.
I can't hear you. You're
For
breaking up,
for
AJ.
time, I know Bob has a question he needs to get in about the GA
Okay.
Senate race. So she has to go because she has a show. I want to make sure.
So,
With
Mayor Patterson, I got to tell you
Bob?
that you've been on my mind for the past couple of days as I've thought about where we need to go from here and the role that Mount Vernon can continue to play in pushing the nation in a historic direction. It's only as a result of my involvement in some of the recent mayoral races in Mount Vernon that I really gained a full appreciation of the number of transplants from New York State and also from Mount Vernon in particular, who now call Georgia their home. As a matter of fact, I think during some of these recent elections, people have mentioned to me Mount Vernon Day that's celebrated regularly in Atlanta, Georgia. And I know that you have played a leading role in trying to spur people across the nation to support some of the progressive struggles that have taken place here, the Black Lives Matters movement as well. And so I've both wondered and hoped that you and those members, you might play a more public role in encouraging former residents of Mount Vernon who now call the Peachtree State their home to be sure to get out and vote in this upcoming January election.
I put the link up on my
Wonderful.
Facebook page yesterday. My husband is from Atlanta. So he has 5 brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. I have lots of family in Georgia. I have cousins, aunts, uncles. A lot of our friends have moved down there. There's a Mount Vernon kind of like Georgia Day. That I have lots of friends who went to Spelman and Morehouse and the different colleges down there. So trust and believe, I am reaching deep into Georgia, all throughout Georgia, and I'm working with the African American Mayors Association as well to make sure that we are going to support my sister and my Sora, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and our HBCU Spelman graduate, Stacey Abrams, and doing that. So I promise you, HBCUs, D9s, different civic organizations, we need to make sure that we congratulate them for the work that they did, because it wasn't just Georgia. It was those big Black metro areas that brought this vote home. So let's be clear, it's not just Georgia. It was those metropolitan areas full of Black and brown people who went out and voted, and then also your white progressives. It was a combined effort, and we have to make sure that the same energy we brought to this November race, we bring even double that energy to the January race. I have an 8 o'clock show that I have to do, so I'm gonna have to jump off, but I look forward to coming back and being on Black Westchester and having some more continued conversation with you guys and ladies. I appreciate this time, and let's connect soon.
Okay. Love you.
And you're somewhat continuing the conversation.
I can't hear you. You're freezing, AJ.
I think he said, Mayor, that he's
looking I just said
you're
continuing the conversation, so to speak.
Yes, we're continuing the conversation on Sundays with Shawyn at 8 o'clock. We have our senator, our Senate Majority Leader, Stewart-Cousins, and our Attorney General, Tish James. They'll be on, so come on and check us out, because this is a conversation that's not over. Take care, guys.
So,
yeah. Continue that conversation and go over to her Facebook page and watch her show. That's why Andrea said, I have another show to do. That's the show she was talking about. She had to get ready for Shawyn's show. So any last words from the ladies, Lorraine, about the show, about the election, about anything like that?
It was a great show, AJ. I'm sorry you missed some of it, but we held it down for you as best we could.
Yeah, no, I didn't miss any of it. I just wasn't on screen. I was trying to keep all the
Well,
technical stuff going.
we
The
miss
crowd
having you on the board.
is coming from, yeah. I was muted. Oh, well, y'all held it down. Y'all held it down. Tasha, Black Girl Magic. I told you I was going to do it and bring you on here.
God bless you for this, AJ. You know, the tears didn't fall, but I welled up in tears with so many moments on this call. There's so much love on this show right here, and we got to stay united. You know, like Lorraine and I opened with, you know, the fact that we remain teachable. We are each other's accountability partners. And Stephanie Swan, I just want to say, Stephanie Swan, I agree with you that for the first time in a long time, I was able to sleep and wake up without that feeling of what else is coming down that's bad from this administration. So I agree with Stephanie, but AJ, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And I want to close by saying that we have to stick together. We have to acknowledge each other's differences, listen to one another, sometimes step away and say, you know what, this is getting really heated. Let me come back to you when I calm down or when you calm down, because a people united can never be defeated. And Black and brown leaders and Black and brown men and women and older people and youth have to stay united with our counterparts and colleagues that are white. So I just want to say that. I just want to say that I do have an announcement at the end, if I could make it at the end.
You know, it's funny. It's funny how they said that. Wait. It's funny how they say that things are not going to happen overnight with Biden and Harris being elected. But if you take a look at it, we in less than 24 hours, we went from rioting to dancing in the streets.
Oh, wow, that's a major point.
Yeah.
Major. So the quick announcement I have is that in the midst of everything, COVID.
Go ahead, Tasha.
Okay, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of racially motivated terror and uprisings, in the midst of this election cycle, we are all experiencing emotional and mental impact. And on Tuesday, Damon, myself, and 2 licensed social workers. One is a school social worker named Yvonne Perez Nelson. She's also Latina, Afro-Latina, and Candida Brooks Harrison. We're going to have a wellness virtual event Tuesday night at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. because we have to talk about how we're caring for ourselves in the midst of all of that. So Yvonne's going to talk about the child perspective, the DOE perspective, what's happening in the schools, what's happening with remote learning for parents. And then Dame is going to talk about our eating and exercise and how we're doing wellness that way. And then Candida is going to help us with tools and practices to help maintain mental and emotional health. So please join us. If I could share it with you, AJ, maybe you could share it on your pages, but we really hope you guys register and join us. It's going to be, you're going to be thankful that you did.
Dr. Bob, any last words?
Yeah, I wanted to close out this show where we're reflecting on the historic victory of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris by repeating, I think, perhaps what is the most memorable line from Vice President-elect's acceptance speech last night, where she reminded us that our ability to realize a more progressive vision of the United States is made possible when we can see what we can be unburdened by what has been. We do not have to remain hostages to our past. And I think the unity that the progressive movement here in New York State and across the country has been able to demonstrate in looking to overcome a lot of the historic divisions and cleavages that have too often divided us is a reminder that we have to move forward. And I want to say, even though I'm a proud member of the Black Westchester team, I know I speak for all of us in expressing thanks and gratitude to so many of our progressive white brothers and sisters who have bucked the trend of America's racial history, rejected white supremacy, and put their reputation on the line in working in partnership with us to build a multiracial democracy. It requires not only people of color to mobilize, but it also requires our white progressive brothers and sisters to do the same. And I am absolutely ecstatic to see that they too have risen to the occasion and attempted to defy America's racial past so that we can build a more harmonious future together.
Absolutely.
That's it for me, guys.
Since my mic is coming off, I'm trying to type my words real quick for y'all. I'm gonna try to speak and hopefully y'all can hear me. Sometimes you got to realize it's not about you. Yes, I'm the host of this show. It was more important for the ladies to be heard as we celebrate Black magic. My face didn't have to be on the screen. Asked the questions. I stayed in the background and made sure with technical difficulties that I got the comments up and I got the people in and I kept the show going, which is the most important thing. Tasha, I thank you for, you always been down with Black Westchester, but for coming on and doing what you do. Lorraine, thank you for holding it down for the women. And again, I agree with it. The ladies did an awesome job, and this was all about the ladies tonight. And I'm glad to be affiliated with y'all, and look forward to where we're going to move forward. With that said, that's it, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I will not hold you. And for those who are watching, go over to Sean Patterson-Howard show and check it out for the continuation of the conversation with Senator Majority Leader Sean Patterson-Howard and Attorney General Tish James and our Mayor Sean Patterson-Howard. Until next week, as somebody just said, yes, you could be doing 100 other things, but you decide to ride with us. We greatly appreciate it. This is Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show. Until next week, peace.
Peace.